I don't know.
It's about that time.
Stone on Sports.
How's it going, everybody? You're tuned into Stone on Sports Fantasy Football. My name is Matt. Got the awesome co-host Kyle here with me today. The NFL trade deadline has come and gone, and there's a couple moves we're going to touch on. And as we usually do on Tuesday, we got some waiver wire targets for you. Kyle, how you doing, dude?
Doing great. Got the news that the Lions made a trade for a pass rusher, Zadarius Smith. So I'm glad we just didn't sit and do nothing. So I'm happy about that. A little bit on the older side, but should give us some help as long as he stays healthy. So I'm happy about that. But in the fantasy side for real life trades, Khalil Herbert was traded from the Bears to the Bengals. If you remember, Moss suffered an injury. He's out for at least the regular season. In a move that doesn't make sense to me, Jonathan Mingo was traded from the Panthers to the Cowboys. What are you going to do? That kid's still pretty raw. It's going to be tough for him to see any meaningful passes with, Cooper Rush behind center for the foreseeable future. So, and a receiver that I've always loved, Mike Williams, was sitting there on the Jets. They traded him to the Steelers, which is a nice compliment there, we think, with Pickens. So should be good. I think Mike Williams, you might see his ownership go up a little bit, especially with Russell Wilson behind center.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know some people were concerned about maybe him working into Carl Pickens' workload. I don't really see that happening. I think the targets that Mike Williams gets are going to come from the likes of Calvin Austin and whatever other jabronis the Steelers are running out there at wide receiver. Pickens is going to do his thing.
Did you just refer to him as Carl Pickens?
Yep, I sure did.
I was pretty sure you did. And I'm like, whoa, blast from the past. Wasn't he from the Beecher area where we're close to where we're from?
Think so.
I can't remember if I'm mixing up my Carls. But anyway, that's not where
No, you're thinking of Carl Banks.
I am thinking of Carl Banks. You're right. Sorry. All right. That's not what we're here for. We've wasted 2.5 minutes. These guys want to hear about waivers, right? So we got, 10 of them for you. First one we got is Aaron Rodgers, Mr. Ayahuasca, and is a decent streaming option. Man, I can't even stand the guy. You just talk about him.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah. He's coming off his first 3-touchdown game of the season last Thursday against the Texans. And he's got multiple touchdowns in 6 of 8 games. He has yet to go over 300 yards, though, but he's gone over 275 3 times, despite being second in attempts behind Geno Smith. So he's out there throwing it. They're just not getting the yardage result. His 2,107 yards is 7th best, as is his 15 touchdowns. 62.3% completion rate. That's definitely not what we expect when we're thinking of somebody like Aaron Rodgers. That's 28th among quarterbacks. Just slightly worse than Bo Nix and a little bit better than Caleb Williams. But that roughly tracks with his career average. I always think of him as like this really super accurate quarterback, but he's, usually in that like 65% range. So he's just a couple points off of that. He's QB 13 in total points, QB 18 in points per game at 16 flat. He has 2 QB1 finishes this season, weeks 3 and 9. He does have 6 weeks over 15 or more points, including his last 4 games. And with the change in play caller there with the Jets, we've seen a renewed emphasis on the run game. He's got just 50 attempts over his last 2 games. That is the lowest 2-game output since the first 2 weeks of the season. Since Lazard went on IR, he's really only throwing to 3 people now. Devontae Adams, since he got there, Garrett Wilson, and those 2 account for over 60% of targets just by themselves, and Breece Hall. He has an excellent upcoming schedule. The Cardinals, the Colts, the Seahawks, Dolphins, Jags, and Rams. All of those, besides the Dolphins, are in the bottom half or worse in points allowed to quarterbacks. I'm expecting high-end QB2 play with the occasional top 12 performance over the next, we'll call it 6 weeks.
Yeah, the upcoming matchups are what drew me to include Aaron Rodgers this week. For really the only thing, honestly. But we got a question in the chat from can't remember, Perico. We're going
Pareko.
Pareko. That sounds good. How do you feel about Chase Brown rest of the season? Traded Dell and Tony Pollard for Chase Brown and BTJ. Now that Khalil Herbert is a Bengal, yeah, I think it's going to cut into his thing a little bit. What were we talking on the phone earlier? Like probably like 70-30. But I mean, Chase Brown ran the ball, 27 times, and I think he caught 5 or 6 balls. So that's a lot of touches that isn't sustainable rest of the season. I expect Khalil Herbert to take some of those away from him, but I don't think it'll be very drastic.
No, and it's going to take a minute for him to learn the offense too. Chase Brown, according to Pro Football Reference, he's 5'10" to 11. So that's roughly Christian McCaffrey's size, just for comparison's sake. Look, he's been efficient with the ball. I like Chase Brown rest of season. I like him better than Tony Pollard. And BTJ, you could certainly make the case for him over Tank Dell. I think the Texans offense, look, everybody who has the fuck's their dickhead quarterback's name?
Who?
Houston.
Stroud?
Yeah, there you go. CJ Stroud. I'm sorry. I could not think of his name. Look, the people who are rostering CJ Stroud are probably disappointed with his performance this season, especially compared to what we saw last year. Kyle, I know you're dealing with that firsthand. And even if we'll call it Nico Collins comes back this week, we're not going to see last year's offense. They are loving them, some run game down there, and it's gotten them results. I think that's a good trade. And if that trade were proposed to me, or if you would ask me to pick a side, I'll take the Brown and BTJ side. I think that's a good trade there.
I 100% agree.
Damn, that was a long-winded reply.
It was.
So if you don't like Aaron Rodgers, we've got another quarterback for you who's really starting to throw the ball more over the past few weeks. And we know he can do it, right? Ever since his rookie year. What's going on with Justin Herbert?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like at least the last few weeks, like you said, the old Justin Herbert is back. He's really been on fire recently. Threw for over 280 yards and 2 touchdowns this past week. It's his second straight game with multiple touchdown passes. He finished as QB 11 this week, putting him QB 21 on the season. And he had 0 top 12 finishes weeks 1 through 7. Back-to-back top 12 finishes the last couple weeks. I love it. He's letting it fly more, as you alluded to there, following that conservative start to the season. He's averaging 33 attempts a game and about 287 yards in his last 4 games. And the yards per attempt, of course, have gone up weeks 1 through 4. When they were more, the Chargers were more a run-first team. Yards per attempt was horrible, just about 6.5. He's up to 8.7 since week 6, which is the 6th most among QBs with at least 30 dropbacks over that span. Speaking of dropbacks, there's been 24 quarterbacks that have had 250 dropbacks to pass this season. Herbert ranks 4th in PFF passing grade. He's tied for 7th in yards per attempt, tied for 8th in ADOT, 2nd in big time throw rate. What is big time throw rate? We've talked about it before in the past, but probably not recently. That's a PFF stat there that grades passes with, pretty excellent ball location and timing. And they're generally thrown down the field, sometimes into a tighter window. So he's 2nd out of those 24. He's a howitzer. He's got a cannon. He can throw the damn ball. He's very good, very accurate, and he's been doing it for quite a while. And he's got the best interception rate too, at just 0.4%. He's thrown just 1 pick this season. That's huge. It's probably not sustainable the rest of the season, but that's huge. And he's 20th in passing yards, which it'll probably start climbing up a little bit. Weeks 1 through 4, he never surpassed 180 yards when, again, they were in that run first mode. And the matchups the next 4 weeks are against Tennessee, Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Atlanta. Now, this week, Tennessee, that's a tougher matchup against QBs in fantasy. But the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Falcons all allow the 7th most points to QBs or worse. And he's a quarterback that, I probably wouldn't use this week, but those next 3 weeks, I definitely would. And the fantasy finals aren't really great either for him. New England and Denver, but I think he's definitely a good starter, leading up to the playoffs, and he's an elite talent. He's really elevated the young receiving core there with his play. They got a great running game with J.K. Dobbins. I wouldn't mind adding him as a streamer, with that favorable schedule.
Sure. He's awesome. I've been a fan of his ever since he come in the league.
Yeah.
So we got Jeffrey in the chat, says he has Jennings coming back. Should he drop Tank Dell, Cade Otton, or drop Jennings? He also has Kittle as his tight end.
Yeah, I think I just go ahead and drop Jennings.
Yeah, I think so too. Typically, you don't want to roster more than one tight end, especially when you have an elite one. But just given the situation in Tampa Bay, Cade Otton is a viable flex option.
He's a wide receiver
every single week.
Really. I mean, he's a tight end, but he's really in a wide receiver one body right now. But yeah, good question, Jeffrey. Welcome to the show. Thanks for stopping in. Give us a like and subscribe, guys. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. and then 12 p.m. noon Eastern on Sundays.
Yep. And he just follows up. His wide receivers are Chase, Puka, Wilson, D-Hop, and Dell, and Jennings. Yeah, Jennings is a drop. Chase Brown, Brian Robinson, and Tyrone Tracy. You're a little thin at running back. Maybe you can flip Jennings for some depth. It doesn't hurt to put some feelers out there. But yeah, if somebody's going, he's the odd man out.
Yeah.
And we got Jackson in here. Is Brian Thomas a good start versus Minnesota?
Absolutely. Minnesota allows the most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. Definitely a good start there for me. I'm starting him. Definitely. I might not start him against Denver, but against Minnesota, hell yes.
All right. Epic Fail is in here. Welcome back. Superflex, redraft, PPR, quarterbacks are Daniels, Burrow, Russ Wilson, and Flacco. Wide receivers, Nico, Tyreek, Deontay, Tillman. Someone offered Downs for Russ. Would you take that given the wide receivers? Absolutely.
Definitely would. The Colts announced that it's Joe Flacco from here on out, and Downs is really the big beneficiary of that QB change, I should say. Definitely. Just like Matt said. Love it.
Yeah, and another thing too, the Colts just put their center, Ryan Kelly, on IR today. And it's, I don't know, depending on who you ask, it's either an upgrade or a downgrade. But one thing is for sure, in a situation like that where you've got a new offensive lineman coming in, you're not going to have the same chemistry and communication. That's when leaks start to happen, especially up the middle. That's not a good thing. And Joe Flacco is going to be looking for the wide receiver that can separate the quickest. And on that team is Josh Downs.
Yeah, agreed. Good questions. Keep them coming. Live Q&A here. We'll go through our guys, but as we finish up, we'll get to all your questions. We won't leave a question unanswered, put it that way. So throw them in the chat, guys. Next guy we got for you is Buffalo's running back Ray Davis. Has contingency value written all over him, right? And he's done so much with his limited touches so far this season. I think he's a phenomenal stash. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I'm going to agree. And even still, he's turned in 10-plus point PPR performances in 3 of his last 4 games. And he took a dump off 63 yards to the crib and was the Bills' leading receiver last week. That guy turned 6 touches into 90 scrimmage yards. Now, I have to point out, he really only averages about a 20% snap share, so he's not somebody you really want to rely upon on a week-to-week basis, despite the recent success. I think the big surprise from last week, though, was Ty Johnson coming from out of nowhere to snag almost 30% of snaps. We did see in week 6, though, that if something happens to Cook and he needs to miss time, Davis is going to be the primary runner, and he's another dude that's a bitch to bring down. He's 41st in rush attempts with 61, but he's 15th in yards after contact per attempt. Also, he's 17th among everybody who has run the ball this season, regardless of position, in rushing EPA. To me, he's a high priority handcuff on one of the better teams and offenses in the league. And if for some reason he gets a consistent amount of run, you're looking at high end running back 2, low end running back 1 potential.
Definitely. I mean, he doesn't really create standalone value on his own as much as he's hurting James Cook. No questions in the chat, brother.
All right. Time to keep rolling. We got another running back for you who every now and then he's going to come through and get you 10, 15 points, something like that. But really his biggest value is as handcuffed to Bijan Robinson. Kyle, why should we be looking at Tyler Allgeier?
Yeah, Allgeier is one of the what I call a handcuff with benefits category. He's capable of seeing 10 plus touches in a game and provide some standalone value, but he also happens to be the premier handcuff in the league, and he's one injury away from a very significant role. And I've said it over and over. Matt has too. You want dudes like this on your roster at all times. You know, a Justice Hill, a Khalil Herbert for example, a Zach Charbonnet. You guys get it, right? In week 10, Allgeier rushed for just 6 times for 18 yards. Got into the end zone, though, netted him 7.8 points. He's now carried 12 plus times during 2 of his last 4 games, and he's averaging 5.5 attempts per game during the remaining. He's got a 30% snap share, which is up actually over 33% since week 4. He carries just about over 8 times a game. He's got 370 rushing yards on the year, averaging right about 41 a game, but he averages 5 yards per attempt on the season, which is excellent. He's also has 17 attempts inside the red zone, which is huge, with 43% of those carries inside the 5-yard line. That is huge touchdown upside as Atlanta's short yardage thumper, so to speak. And you've probably seen, some Atlanta games recently, and, his value is kind of depreciating a little bit there simply because Atlanta's given Bijan the ball a hell of a lot more than when the season started. He's had 20 or more touches in 3 straight games. And with them relying on Bijan so much lately, don't overlook the value of adding Allgeier, at least on your bench now. They're a playoff team, Atlanta is, and the Falcons, whether they like it or not, they're going to have to manage Bijan's workload as they enter into the playoff push. Let's see. Week 10 matchup at the Saints. They allow the 7th most points overall and the 8th most in the red zone, which could be huge for Allgeier, the red zone, in standard leagues. And the Saints have given up 10 rushing touchdowns, the 8th most rushing yards this season, and they allow over or at 5.1 yards per carry, which is tied for second worst. So he's certainly in play. Allgeier is for a flex option in deeper leagues. He doesn't offer too much as a receiver, so the fantasy ceiling is limited. So better start or better pickup in standard leagues than half for PPR.
Yeah, definitely. And that dude, another dude is a bitch to bring down. His touchdown run.
Yeah,
I mean, just he'll drag dudes.
Yep, he's tough. He's got very strong legs. Bijan's Dijon. All right, sorry, I'm slowing down here. Next up, we got a wide receiver for you. While Nick Westbrook-Ikhine hasn't typically been a fantasy starter, thanks to Treylon Burks going on IR and DeAndre Hopkins getting traded, he's a starter again. And let's face it, it's hard to ignore 4 straight games with a house call, right, Matt?
It is. He is the most desperate of desperation
Absolutely.
plays. And we've talked during baseball season, that kind of desperation play. It's 2:00, the lights come on. This one's even worse than that. It's 2:00, the lights come on, and it's cold out. And now all you're looking at is snow cows.
Yeah.
But you need the warmth. He's coming off his best game of the year, 6 targets, 5 grabs for 50 and a touchdown. He started the past 2 games, during which he's got 10 targets, caught 7 for 89 and 2 touchdowns. You said it. He's scored in each of the last 4 games. He's been on the field a ton as well. He's led the team in snaps and snap share each of the past 2 weeks. Due to his size, he's a good red zone, end zone target, and a recent touchdown streak backs that up. It's much better for him to have Mason Rudolph under center, and that's not really a sentence I ever really thought I would say, but here we are. even still, the Titans have only thrown for 5 touchdowns in their last 4 games. And granted, he's caught 4 of them. That's awesome. Touchdowns are not at all something that you can accurately predict. The biggest indicator would be target volume, and he's getting a little bit, but he's going to play second fiddle there to Calvin Ridley, who he and himself is not having that great of a season. That's really not a good offense. If you put him in, you're hoping for another touchdown, and that's about it. Anything else you get on top of that is gravy. But even then, that's going to be very difficult to count on.
Yeah, it is. It is. He does have a great schedule rest of the season for wide receivers, but not this week.
No,
definitely not this week. Kelsey asked every week about Burrow or Herbert. I answered in the chat. I went with Burrow. If Jameis can shred Baltimore, so can Burrow. Herbert's got the Titans, which can be kind of tough against quarterbacks. What do you think?
I'm going to agree with that. And we've had people ask in the past about, all right, I've got these 2 good quarterbacks. Once both of them are on bye, just see if you can trade one of them, or if there's a waiver wire target, something like that, because both of them are halfway decent, and you're going to find yourself guessing every week. And really, it's going to come down to how often do you think you're going to be right with that decision?
That's a good point. That's good advice.
I think the easiest way to make that decision is to remove the decision.
That's a good point. Definitely is.
We saw Drake London get hurt last Sunday. Hip pointer, he's day-to-day, whatever it may be, on the off chance that he's out. Ray McCloud could be a huge beneficiary. Tell us how he'd do that, Kyle.
Yeah, London, like you mentioned, hurt hip pointer. It's basically just a contusion or a bruise of the hip bone there. He's day-to-day, according to the Falcons, so it's going to be a lot of pain tolerance for him. If you do pick up Ray, definitely check to see if Drake London is playing. You've been warned, right? Don't screw it up. But I think it could be a decent flex play if Drake London is out. In week 9, he caught all 3 of his targets, 28 yards, fell into the end zone. He also added 7 yards on 1 rush attempt. And he's flashed a bit of upside this season. He's got 4 games this season with at least 3 receptions and 42 yards. And he's caught multiple passes in every game so far this year. If he posts a stat line like that and gets into the end zone this week, I, for one, would be pretty happy starting him if London is out. 54 receivers have seen 40 targets this season. McCloud is one of them. And he's got a couple good things, a couple bad things too. He's 6th in percentage of targets caught, so very sure-handed. He's at over 76%. And he's 21st in yak per reception. I did not expect that to be as high for him. I know he's not horrible at it. He's a fast guy, but he's at 4.3 yards. I like that. PFF doesn't really agree too well that he's a good receiver. They've graded him pretty low. He's in the bottom 5. He's in the bottom 5 in yards per reception, and he's dead last in route participation. You add a bit more context to that. The Falcons receiver room there, the rotation's pretty straightforward. You got London and Darnell Mooney. They play about 93 plus snaps each week, and McCloud's right around the 88 mark. The Falcons run more 11 personnel than any other team. So McCloud's out there a lot. And all 3 wide receivers in this last game, they played all 11 snaps in the first 2 drives. So he's out there. The week 10 matchup at New Orleans, Saints allow the 12th most points to wide receivers in PPR. He lines up in the slot. McCloud does about 46% of the time. Saints have been horrible, just freaking horrible at defending the slot. 3rd most receiving yards per game, and PPR points per target to slot receivers, also 3rd worst. Plus, the Saints are hurting at quarterback. Marshawn Lattimore got traded today to the Washington Commanders, and Kool-Aid McKinstry missed week 9 with a pretty serious hamstring injury, and word is he's going to be questionable this week, and it'll be up in the air if he's going to play. And the Falcons schedule gets a little more difficult weeks 11 through 13, which includes their week 12 bye and the matchups versus the Broncos and Chargers. So just, add him for this week. If London's out, he's a decent flex play or wide receiver 4, possibly in some deeper leagues. And then probably a drop right after, considering Drake was, if he does miss, I think it'll just be a week.
Sure. So we got Daddy Matthews in the chat joining us on Twitch.
Nice.
Hey, boys, Stroud, Cousins, or Tua?
What do you got? I don't remember who plays who. I'm looking that up.
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean, I guess
I'm the
I
guy
could
that
have
just
looked
started
into that.
talking. Yeah, that'd have been good.
My mistake.
Stroud plays the Lions, so that
Maybe
would be
at
on
home.
paper. That's a good matchup. But the offense, as Matt mentioned a little bit earlier, is seemingly a lot more of a ground attack lately since Nico's been out, who could be back this week. Time will tell. And who do the Dolphins play?
Cousins has the Saints, who just traded away Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah.
And then the Dolphins are playing the Rams. I'm going to go with old Kirky here on this one.
That's
the Saints
one
were
I'm-
already kind of struggling, and
Yep.
they've kind of thrown in the towel on this season. So
That
that'd
is
be
the
my
one.
call.
That is definitely what I think too. Thanks for joining us on Twitch there, man. Appreciate it. We're on YouTube too as well if you use that. We're here every Sunday. Well, we actually are here every Sunday, but every Tuesday and Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday at 12 noon Eastern. We got any more questions?
Yes. John just popped in, liked and subscribed. Thanks, dude. Appreciate you.
It. Heck yeah.
Kyler Murray or Kirk Cousins?
I think I still got to lean Cousins. Got the
Yeah,
Jets.
I think so too. That matchup is just going to be too damn good for Kirk Cousins, and Kyler really is not playing up to expectations this season. I don't know. I just don't see the improvement with him.
Yep. Second question: Taysom Hill or Gesicki this week?
If T. Higgins is out, I'm going with Gesicki.
Exact. Perfect answer. Same thing I was going to say as well.
If T is in, then I'm going to go with Taysom.
I think that's right. I think we'll get to Taysom here shortly, but yeah. So Christian Kirk was lost for the season due to injury. Parker Washington became the starting slot receiver there in Jacksonville. The next two games that Jacksonville has are a slot receiver's dream. Vikings this week, they've allowed the third most fantasy points per game to slot receivers. In the following week, week 11, face the Lions. Just happens to be a team that allows the most fantasy points to slot receivers. What do you think?
Well, this dude come in. He's the direct replacement for Christian Kirk. He's garnered 74 and 85% of snaps over the past couple of weeks. It's not really translated to huge production, though. 10 targets, 6 grabs for 87 yards. That's a 16.7% target share. Over that couple week span, he's 24th in air yards. He's caught all 6 of his catchable targets, 5 of which went for 5 or more yards. And he does have a red zone target. He was second on the team in targets, receptions, and yards last week. And we saw him get a bit of run last season when Christian Kirk was hurt. Didn't really do a whole hell of a lot, but he did find the end zone a couple times. I think a big key to his opportunities is going to hinge on whether or not Gabe Davis plays. Those are two fantastic matchups. If Gabe Davis is out, I think we'll call it a wide receiver 3 flex option kind of play. I'd like him better in PPR than I would in half or standard. If Gabe Davis does play, that really puts a damper on his already limited upside. I think just kind of given the matchup, that Vikings pass defense is kind of rough. I do think he could see a 6 for 60, 6 for 70 kind of day. And we'll call it a 30% chance to find the end zone, considering he's 4% owned and just kind of sitting out there on the wire. If you're in need, he's definitely somebody you should be looking at.
Yeah, I think he's probably the best receiver to add this week on like a point per dollar basis there if you're using Fab. But I think many people will probably lean to other names this week. But you should bet on Parker Washington this week with the schedule coming up.
Absolutely.
We got a couple questions in the chat here. Oh, I missed them here. Did I miss one? No. Smitty, welcome back to the show, man. Appreciate you dropping in tonight. May or Stafford? Stafford's Monday night against the Dolphins, and May is against Chicago, I believe. Chicago allows the fewest points to quarterbacks. I don't know if I love May. Now, Miami actually allows the third least points to quarterbacks, but a lot of that smoke and mirrors with what their offense has been through there. What do you think? I'm leaning Stafford.
Yeah, I'm leaning Stafford too. I don't really believe in that Vikings pass defense. I think that Bears defense is good enough to give um, some fits to this rookie quarterback. However, he's been playing really well. He gives you some rushing upside. I just don't see the Patriots offense really being able to do a whole hell of a lot. I think this is going to end up like a 17-10, 17-14 kind of game. Whereas, between Miami and the Rams, that game could be played in the high 50s. I'm going to go with Stafford.
Love it. Same. Kelsey wants to know Kittle or Otten, the opposing tight ends in the same game. Man, I still want to say Otten. I think, he can see 8 or 9 targets where Kittle might only see 4 to 6.
Yeah, I think just from a volume standpoint, you're probably right. Depending on how your roster shakes out, I could certainly envision a scenario where you're starting both.
Sure.
I mean, George Kittle has been the number one tight end this year for a reason.
Yep.
Now, granted, a lot of it was injury related, but CMC is going to be back this week. Juwan Jennings should be back. He'll replace Brandon Ayuk. Debo is going to be around, so they're going to have their full complement of weapons. If I have to pick one, I'm going with Cade Otton, though.
Yeah. Agreed. John, back for the question. Add Dowdle or Warren? I really like Warren rest of season with Russell Wilson being the quarterback there. This week they play the Commanders. Could be kind of high scoring. What's the total at? 45.5. I think Warren's going to come on more here as the season progresses, mostly in the receiving game. So I'd add him into PPR.
Yeah, I think that Cowboys offense here for the next few weeks while Dak is out is going to be worse than it already was, and it hasn't been great to this point. Dowdle would be the volume play, but I think Jaylen Warren, he's shown over the past couple of seasons that even though he doesn't get that bell cow workload, he's incredibly efficient.
Yeah. John, Vikings or Chargers?
I'm going to go with Chargers going up against the Titans.
Titans, I like that too. I mean, Mason Rudolph's a third string quarterback for a reason,
Right.
or whatever.
He's a Jag.
Yeah. And let's see, Trey McBride or Otten. Ooh, that's a good one.
I'm still going to go Otten.
Okay.
They're both up there in the top. We'll call it 4 at the position. I'm going to go with Otten just with a better matchup. I could definitely see the Jets putting one of their cornerbacks really paying attention to Trey McBride.
Kelsey reminded me, our poll question today is your favorite cereal. Shout them out in the chat. We'd love to know. Her question is Fruit Loops or Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I like both, but I'm leaning towards Fruit Loops.
I'm going Cinnamon Toast Crunch. The milk afterwards is delicious.
Yeah, it is too. And that's why I like Cocoa Krispies.
Sure.
The milk's just amazing afterwards.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Yep. Favorite cereals. Let me take this banner off. We got another question here. Maybe Smitty, Laporta or Hawkinson? Ooh.
Hawk in his first game back. I'm going to go with Hawk. Jamos is going to be back this week for that game at the Texans.
Hawk played last week, by the way.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. I mean, he only had caught 3 balls or whatever, but yeah, Jamos back. I think I go with Hawk.
I think so too.
Yep. Kelsey, you eat way more gourmet than breakfast cereal, Dubo says. Let's see.
Nothing beats a good breakfast cereal.
A good cereal. Sometimes I get a sweet tooth at night or in the evening, 11 o'clock or something. Yep, I'll get a little bowl of cereal or like a coffee mug of cereal or something. Hell, way to go. Augusto, welcome back to the show. Appreciate you stopping in. Running backs, Hall, Kamara, Chase Brown, Dobbins, Hunt, Chubb. His wide receivers are London, Neighbors, Ridley, Thielen, and tight ends are Bowers and Hawkinson. Would you do Hunt for DJ? DJ, wait a minute. Do you understand the question?
DJ who? DJ Moore?
That's all I can think of.
I'm 100% on board with trading Kareem Hunt. I don't necessarily know that I want to get DJ Moore though.
Yeah, Mr.
Looking at your wide receivers, like you could use some depth there. London, Neighbors has really cooled off after his hot start there, and the Giants have suffered some injuries there on the offensive line that are really making life difficult on Daniel Jones. Calvin Ridley ain't done shit all season. Adam Thielen, we don't even know if he's going to play this week, and that's a team that's headed nowhere fast. I get it. You need to trade for somebody though. And of those running backs, Hunt or Chubb would be the two that I would look to move first. I would probably lean.
Hunt's expiration date's coming.
Yeah.
Eventually at some time.
It is. I mean, I'm guessing here in 3 weeks, probably something like that. So yeah, I would see if you can get a little bit more for Kareem Hunt though, than DJ Moore.
Yeah. Smitty's got a question. What's a low end wide receiver 1/2 you would trade for a rest of season ad? Well, that's tough without knowing, your roster and your league in a way. But do you have some ideas, Matt? That's tough.
I think Darnell Mooney is kind of right around that borderline. I would imagine that his manager may not be valuing him appropriately. You're going to be thrilled with the production, but damn, you ain't going to get Nico Collins from whoever has him because they already wrote out the IR stint. BTJ, it's possible you could target somebody like him. I'm just kind of scrolling through the rankings here. The Josh Downs would be somebody good to target. He's the wide receiver 25 on the season in total points. Where's he at in average? 23rd. So he's a low end wide receiver too, that with Joe Flacco, I'd imagine he's going to have a boost in value and end up as a high end wide receiver too. And he's going to have some wide receiver 1 weeks. I think that'd be a good target.
Josh Downs, definitely a good one. Good luck, Smitty. Epic fail. Would you drop Braylon Allen or Zach Charbonnet for Ray Davis?
If I have Breece Hall, I'm not dropping Braylon Allen. If I have Ken Walker, I'm not dropping Charbonnet. Honestly, of those three, I think Braylon Allen has the highest theoretical value if the running back in front of them got hurt, just because of the volume he would see. Ray Davis would be splitting time with Ty Johnson. We know Charbonnet would get a shit ton of work too. So kind of working off that theoretical value, I would rather have Braylon Allen and Charbonnet than Ray Davis.
Yeah. And John's asking, should he trade JSN on the high or keep rest of season?
You're going to see his production dip when DK comes back, likely after the bye. Yeah, if you can sell high on him, do it. Just make sure that it improves your team.
Yeah. Got some rough matchups coming there for JSN in Seattle, the Jets in week 13, Green Bay in week 15, Chicago, the final week of the season. Some tough stuff, but I agree with Matt. Creamy or crunchy peanut butter?
Oh, this isn't even a contest. It's creamy. Crunchy peanut butter is like, it might as well be pre-chewed peanut butter.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Creamy. You use the chunky, you spread it on a piece of bread. It rips the shit out of the bread. And yeah, who needs that mess? I'm getting
crunchy's better for making like peanut butter cookies.
Agreed. Definitely stuff. Dubo says chunky is the way. Supersonic. Creamy Peter Pan. I'm a Jif guy. Regular old Jif. Yep. Steve 562, welcome to the show. Trade JSN for Jonathan Taylor? I absolutely would.
Yes. If you have that offer on the table, do it now.
Yeah. Hit accept. Yeah. Before they change their mind. Do you know how many people like freak out that they hit the accept button and then they have second thoughts and then they freaking blame or bother the commissioner to undo it? And that shit happens in leagues. That's nuts. Just nuts. That should not happen. Right. Dubo says we're weirdos for the crunchy. So,
see, that's why you always rub one out before you hit accept on a trade. You've got the post nut clarity. All right, is this the best thing for me to do? Really, you should do that before all major life decisions.
All right. Matt with the life advice today.
That's
Who we
it,
got
man.
next?
We talked about this cat a few weeks ago. It seems like every 4 or 5 weeks he goes off for a couple touchdowns, and how he gets there is, I don't know. We'll see if it's sustainable or not. But Quentin Johnston,
Yeah,
how's
I
he
think
looking?
so. I think people need to start taking him a little bit more seriously at this point. He had caught 4 of 5 targets last week. He had over 100 yards. It was his first 100-yard game of his career. Caught a tutty as well. Finished as wide receiver 7 in PPR. He played 68% of snaps, had an 18.5% target share. It was his third game of the season with at least 44 receiving yards and a touchdown. It's nice. And only twice this year, he's only saw less than 5 targets. So he's getting some, not primo volume there, but it's something. Year to date, he's wide receiver 61, but the Chargers have become, a lot more pass happy there in recent weeks. So meaning Johnson, I think he'll have a solid floor moving forward with plenty of that touchdown upside. Ladd McConkey, he's the clear-cut wide receiver 1 there, but Johnson's really bounced back from that shitty rookie season last year to become a decent fantasy deep threat. Definitely deep ball. And when you're tied to a quarterback with a cannon for an arm like Justin Herbert, it's not Johnson's last trip to the end zone this year, put it that way. And Johnson is also the king of taking advantage of busted coverages this season. He has almost 31 fantasy points on busted coverages this season. That's 53% more than any other player, and it accounts for 44% of his total fantasy output. So hopefully we'll see some more of that. So granted, he's had some damn luck involved, like we're talking about baseball here, but he's taking advantage of it. 88 wide receivers have seen 25 plus targets this season. It's pretty decent. Top half. He's 32nd in PFF receiving grade. He's tied with George Pickens for 17th in yards per reception. He's top 15 with his 4 touchdowns. He's tied for 6th with his teammate Ladd McConkey with a 95.6 route participation rate. I was kind of shocked on that one. He's tied for 4th with Debo and yak per reception at 8.3. It helps when you're getting deep bombs. And he's top 20 in yards per route 1 and number fucking 1 in passer rating when targeted. Those are some impressive numbers. Week 10, the matchup, that's against the Titans. That kind of sucks. They allow the 3rd most points to wide receivers, but weeks 11 through 13 look damn good versus the Bengals, Ravens, and Falcons. You got a little concern there. DJ Chark could return possibly this week. That could cut into Johnston's playing time a bit. But with how well he's playing, I mean, he's a good add. It's probably going to be a boom or bust with all those touchdowns, but and reliant on those big plays. But his deep play threat keeps him on that wide receiver 3/4 radar for week 10.
I think so too. And he's been inconsistent, but the boom weeks have been amazing.
Yeah.
We got Smitty with a question.
I was just about ready to do it too.
What wide receiver can he trade Ramondre for? So Ramondre is, I think he's 20th right now. He's a, we'll call it mid to back end running back 2. You're probably going to be looking somewhere in that range, just with all the injuries to wide receivers. I imagine you're going to see a premium placed on that position. So you might be looking like Khalil Shakir, Marvin Harrison.
Downs is another good option too.
Downs, Ladd McConkey, somewhere in that range is likely what you'd be looking at.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. That's it. Wow. That's quick. What else we got here? No, I meant I thought there was more questions.
Oh.
All right. Couple tight ends for you. We had a couple quarterbacks, couple running backs, a slew of wide receivers. So here's a couple tight ends. The Baltimore Ravens struggle against tight ends. That's really no secret, right? Enter Bengals tight end Mike Gesicki. He's a great ad. He's a great start for week 10 as well on a short week. And T. Higgins still hasn't frickin' practiced since October 25th. Go get him. Am I right?
Absolutely. And look, if T. Higgins plays, I ain't playing Gesicki.
Yep.
He's averaged 7 targets, 5.5 grabs for 70.5 yards with Higgins out this season, along with a 20% target share and 25% air yard share. And he's averaging roughly 15 points a game. With Higgins in, that drops to a 9% target share. And going up against a Ravens team that's in the bottom 10 in points allowed to tight end, but they're very stingy in the red zone. But against wide receivers, they allow the second most points per game and the fifth most red zone points per game. Now, why would I bring that up? He's a tight end. Well, he's been used more as a wide receiver the past couple weeks. He had 20 snaps in the slot or out wide with just 4 in line in week 8. And in week 9, it was 24 snaps in the slot or out wide with just 2 in line. Over those 2 weeks, 14 targets, 12 grabs, 173 yards, and a pair of touchdowns. He has been a top 3 option at the position the past couple of weeks. If T. Higgins is out, he is a must start, quite frankly. And he's sitting out there on the wire. Would I start him over Cade Otton? Probably not.
Yeah, it's close. It is.
Trey McBride, I'd consider it. Same with George Kittle. Would I pick him up and start him in the flex if I'm somebody who has DK Metcalf out this week or Cedric Tillman out this week or something like that? Yeah, if T. Higgins is out, fire his ass up.
Yeah. Inquiring minds want to know, Kelsey, with a great question: blondes or brunettes? It's no secret I'm a huge brunette follower.
I have a type, and when I was younger, I loved blondes, especially I was one who fell for the allure of an older woman on many occasions. Now I like brunettes. I like brunettes. I have a thing for glasses, and we're not going to get into all that shit. But yes, give me brunettes.
Dubo says he's calling dibs on Gesicki. I reminded him that he's 6th in waiver, and he's got 5 guys ahead of him. Neither of them are us, but somebody else might try and grab it. Captain Spock, what's up, guys? Are you still in first, Dubo? He sure is. He rattled off another one. 8 straight. He's 8-1. In fact, him and Kelsey are both not in the same league, but both in the 8-1 club. So congrats to you guys.
No shit. We're going to have to get them in the chair. Maybe they should be hosting the show.
Poke Squid, his team. Welcome to the show, man. His team is Kyron, Chase Brown, Dobbins, Sun God, MHJ, Puka, Jamar Chase, in a 10-man PPR. Should he trade Dobbins and Sun God for Achane? Absolutely not.
No, that's a huge overpay.
Yep, it is a huge overpay. I think Amon Ra's a fantasy stud. I don't think you really trade him for anybody this year.
No, he's a back end wide receiver 1 this year. J.K. Dobbins is a high end running back 2. That's too much to pay for Achane. I understand he's going ham and running the ball, and he's got like a 20% target share and all this. I don't know how long that's going to last, because a lot of those targets are coming at the expense of Jalen Waddle, and it doesn't make sense to me to cut him out of the offense as much as they have. I think Mike McDaniel is smart enough to understand that, and you'll see a small correction there. I mean, there's no denying, though, that Achane has been putting up numbers, but that's just too much.
It is way too much. Nope. Let's see. Shy guy. You're not that shy, dude. You're asking a question on here. I love it. You just traded Kincaid, Jonathan Brooks, and Tank Bigsby for Brock Bowers. Did he win? What do you think? Did it improve your team? I honestly look at trades as not whether I won or whatever. Did it make my team better?
Sure. And that's really the question. So it's hard to say without knowing your team. Now, just looking at it as it is, Dalton Kincaid, who's been a huge disappointment, Brooks, who hasn't seen the field, and Bigsby, who has a capped upside as a low-end running back 2 flex play for Brock Bowers, who's turning in an amazing rookie season. Did you win? There's no way to say that. Did you make your team better? That should be your goal. And if you were looking to upgrade and get an elite option, then yes, you accomplished it. I mean, you essentially traded depth and somebody who has yet to step on an NFL field for an elite option at the tight end position.
Agreed. Kelsey says, if I'm on the show, we're eating while we talk. Hey, who's we? Who else is watching this show with you? Poke Squid. Who should I trade for? Feel like I need better running backs. He's got a 4-5 record, 7th overall. I got to scroll back up here.
Kyron, Chase Brown, and Dobbins is
hella good.
It is. Kyron is a top, we'll call it top 5 option. Chase Brown and Dobbins are both high-end running back 2s with running back 1 upside any given week. I
like that team.
It is. That's a good squad.
You've encountered some bad luck, obviously with your record. But man, I don't hate that. Sometimes,
I mean, you might be in 7th place, but how are you in total points scored?
Sure.
Like that's a more important factor.
And Smitty, how you doing, man? Welcome back. Well, I guess you haven't left yet, but what'd you trade DK for a wide receiver and Chase Brown? Sorry.
Depending on which receiver I got back, DK has had a good-ish season. He's been a mid-range wide receiver too. Chase Brown, we just talked about. If I felt like that's something that's going to improve my team, it's going to depend on which receiver I'm getting back, obviously.
Yeah, definitely going to depend. Definitely, because Brown's volume is about to drop a bit when Khalil Herbert gets in on that playbook.
Sure. So, I mean, just kind of thinking this through, you're probably getting, well, let me go by points per game here. That makes more sense. You're getting somebody like maybe Jameson Williams or something like that. Somebody who's, we'll call it a mid wide receiver 3. Maybe it's Cortland Sutton or DJ Moore.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay. Let's see. 1140 points, second lowest in the league.
So maybe you've been lucky to get that 4-5 record instead of unlucky.
Sounds like it. I just look at it overall and I go, that's not a bad squad. And sometimes you tinker too much and you trade too much and you think you're making improvements when you're really going backwards.
Yeah. Friggin' A.
Epic fail. Needs a backup tight end this week. Ertz or Taysom Hill? Give me Taysom Hill out of that option. You agree?
Yeah, I think Taysom Hill is a top 10 option. I think Ertz is more a mid tight end too.
Yep. Polkswood thinks Ertz. He doesn't agree. Be interesting to see how that goes down this week. We'll meet back next Tuesday to discuss.
All right, why are we going to take advice from somebody with second lowest points in the league? Come on.
Yep.
I'm just messing with you, buddy.
Yeah. And Dubo says Ertz has the higher floor. I mean, it's a good offense to be in, no doubt. But I guess if Olave's out, I'm definitely going Taysom Hill.
Oh, sure. Olave ain't playing this week.
No, man.
There ain't no way in hell.
It still irks the hell out of me that Brian Branch got tossed for his hit and the hit on Olave didn't. I mean, I looked at it closer. It was a lot of shoulder, but still pisses me off. Yeah. I think the league's starting to hate on the Lions. I mean, if the Lions completely trolled the officials during that Dallas game a couple of weeks ago with many reporting linemen and linemen out wide. And, that can rub people the wrong way. And I think the league office,
they deserved it. You know what? They're going to win in spite of that.
They are. All right. One more tight end.
Yeah. The aforementioned Taysom Hill.
Exactly. The Mormon missile. So Hill, he's not a tight end in a traditional sense, right? He somehow conned his way into eligibility at the position in fantasy. So here we are, right? CBS, Yahoo, Sleeper, ESPN, all the defaults have him listed as a tight end and a quarterback, which is so fucking dumb because he only has 2 pass attempts this year. Dumb. In week 9, he was his usual, jack of all trades kind of guy. Played 45% of snaps, had 5 targets, caught 4 of them for 41 yards, but he rushed the ball 5 times for 19 yards. And more importantly, got in the end zone. He's a decent bet to deliver that exact stat line really in any given week, plus or minus the touchdown there. Some weeks he's just not going to get it. He did run a route on 47% of the dropbacks for the Saints, and he earned a 19% target share, highest ever in his career. Helps that Olave went out, right? He was tight end 3 going into Monday Night Football, but Kelsey and Otten both had 20-plus points last night, so pushed Hill down to tight end 5, tying his finish that he had in week 4. On the season in PPR, he's tight end 31. Remember, he did miss 3 games to injury. He could be in line for more looks on offense. He's already expected to be more involved with Jamal Williams still hurt, Condre Miller, Rashid Shaheed on IR, but with Olave and the status of his concussion up in the air, that puts the Saints without their wide receiver 1, most likely, their wide receiver 2, their RB2, their RB3. The Saints got, kind of funky. The big news yesterday was head coach Dennis Allen got canned. And if New Orleans has any hope of winning any games, they're going to have to get funky on offense. And I think Taysom Hill fits the bill for that. That Swiss Army knife, gadgety type player that he is. I like him this week. I really do. I remember when I said he tied that week 4 finish. Guess who it was against? That's right. The Atlanta Falcons. Who do the Saints play in week 10? The Atlanta Falcons. In that week 4 game, Hill had 6 carries, 24 rushing yards, 2 damn touchdowns. Falcons, they allow the 12th most points to tight ends in PPR. But Kyle, he's not just a tight end. You're right. That's fair. Falcons allow the 7th most points to wide receivers in PPR, and they're middle of the pack in points allowed to running backs. Now, the Saints, they're going to heavily rely on Alvin Kamara, but Taysom Hill, if Olave out, he's the second option in that offense this week. If you need an upside shot at tight end this week, I think Hill should be at the top of your list.
Yeah, I can dig that, man. So we got a question coming to us from Twitch. Where the hell did it go?
I'm not sure, sir.
It always moves on me. All right. Tyrone Tracy or D-Hop followed up. It's in a full PPR. You got Tyrone Tracy over in Germany going against the Panthers. You got DeAndre Hopkins at home against the Broncos.
Ooh, I do not like that matchup against the Broncos in the AFC West matchup. I'll take Tyrone Tracy.
Yep, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Heck yeah.
Good luck.
What do we got here? Almost time for the blue and red bowl. I don't know. Do you
Election
know?
stuff.
Oh, gotcha. I understand. All right. Fully get it. So looks like a red wave coming. I better temper your expectations. You like my Four Seasons landscaping shirt? All right, so we're done with Taysom Hill. Really fast here, we'll cover the podcast league so Dubo can take a bow. Week 9 results. We all won. I won. You won. Dubo won. Loud Boy won. Good stuff. Brandon, pizza guy, couldn't even crack 100. He's pretty much done for the season, but still pretty close. A lot of teams at 4 and 5, 6 and 3. It's going to be interesting down the stretch here. I can't believe Dubo just killing it. And Loud Boy with almost 1,300 points, most in the league. Congrats, brother.
Yeah, I got 7 more points than Dubo. He's been lucky. Yeah.
He's been lucky.
Unlucky.
Yeah, he's only had 1,048 scored on him, which is the second fewest.
Right. And I've had the most scored against me.
Yeah. Well, however you slice it, he's still 8-1 and looking to get that first round bye. And he left Burrow on the pine too. So, all right, guys, no more questions. We're going to get out of here. I'm sure everyone wants to maybe check out election coverage or whatnot. I know I do. So give us a like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. It's free. Don't cost you a thing. Of course, we will be back Thursday. at 7 p.m. Eastern to preview Week 10 starts and sits. We'll take all your questions live, of course. Everyone have a great night and stay stoned.
See you, folks.